So, what are the hazardous waste? The source is US EPA. I am sure you must be aware of what is US EPA, United States Environmental Pollution Agency. And if you go to the website, you should go once and try to see what these guys are doing, and you will get a lot of ideas, what you as a citizen of a democratic country can do. Major source is industrial activity, and hazardous waste poses a significant problem and threat to the environment and health of the fauna and flora in combination with other materials or alone. These are the 4 categories of the hazardous waste which normally we talk about, and this is as per EPA 1980. Type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, aqueous inorganic, aqueous organic, organic, and then hazardous sludges, slurries and solids. So, these are the very wide criteria which has been used to classify the hazardous waste. Now, I am sure from my discussion until now you must have realized that hazardous waste is posing a big challenge, and hazardicity comes because of the attributes which we have discussed today, is it not? So, pathogenic activity, radioactivity, inflammability, explosive nature, it could be irritant, it could be getting decomposed easily, it could be non-decomposable, it could be having odor in it, it could be infectious. So, all these things are adjectives right now. Are you getting this point? Infectious. Now, somebody asked me a question, how infectious the material is there a scale from 0 to 10? Like in your soil classification system, you have numbers CU, CC, PL, LL, PI, shrinkage limit and all. So, all this has been quantified, but I am sure there must have been a time where everything would have been a philosophy, and then people started working on this and they generated a lot of data, and then they showed that bring a soil from anywhere in the world, it follows these indices, it follows these norms, rules. So, I hope I have conveyed the message to you that most of these things are still in the descriptive form, they do not have number assigned to them. So, where the research has to be done is to quantify these effects. So, if somebody says explosivity of the material, what is the explosion index, which has to do with the chemistry of the material, composition of the material and so on. Environmental conditions, what pressure, what temperature, what wind velocity, this might happen. So, hazardous waste is the one which is having major source is industrial activity, and this poses significant health or hazard associated with the environment. There is something known as the concept of the concentration. So, hazard associated with the waste is not only due to its presence, but also due to its concentration, and this is where we talk about a term which is known as hazardicity and toxicity. When concentration of the contaminants in a system go beyond permissible limits, they become toxic, and as long as they remain within the permissible limits, they are hazardous. So, given a chance, which one you will prefer, hazardicity or toxicity, or which one you will think of negotiating with? I will prefer hazardicity, because toxicity is something which has gone beyond a certain numbers, certain limits. The question is, who sets these limits? Pollution control boards, clear, or the agencies which are doing statistical analysis. So, if these type of industries are running in this area and this type of sludge is being disposed of, what type of diseases prevail in the nearby township, clear. And then if I make a model out of this, sometimes when you get chance, please check on net biodiversity analysis. So, there was a time when geotechnical engineers never talked about these terms. I hope you can realize bio is something which geotechnical engineers never bother about, and diversity also we never bothered about, but I am sure now these are the terms which are becoming contemporary in our practice of the subject. So, biodiversity talks about what I discussed just now. There is an industrial activity, and I would like to know what is the influence of this industrial activity in the surroundings, and these surroundings could be X, Y, Z, T. You remember long back we discussed all these things. So, this is where based on the statistical models and the agencies, environmental agencies, the numbers which they describe become guidelines or permissible limits. and anything beyond that becomes toxic, unwanted, and less than that is hazardicity. So, this is what I have written here: hazardous material in a very dilute form may be harmless, even though in its concentrated form it may become very toxic. Most of the medicines is a good example, they are toxic, particularly you overdose, but if you dilute them, they are curative as well as hazardous also. So, there might be some side effect, but they might be curing your disease. So, as such, detection of a hazardous material in the ground does not necessarily indicate a significant problem. I can live with hazardicity, but not with toxicity. These are the very conceptual things, but very abstract thinking. So, as I said, what you need to do is you have to quantify these statements, prepare guidelines, help pollution control boards, make society better. Okay, so let me continue with this sources of hazardous waste: nuclear power plants, municipal solid waste landfills, chemical and primary metal industries, paint and dye manufacturing industries, mining industries, paper and pulp industries. Most of the geotechnical engineers who are dealing with environmental geomechanics are very closely associated with these industries. Nuclear power plant I have discussed quite in details. MSW also I have given you some idea. Chemical and primary metal industries, you can understand that ultimately the sludge is an issue. Paint and dye manufacturing, read on internet that how these industries got affected because of the NGT order or maybe Supreme Court's order or High Court's order. So, these are the topics in which the judiciary gets involved directly with the issues. Why? Because they are controlling the laws of the land, and one law of the land also is that behave in a manner that nobody else gets affected because of your activities. You ever wonder what paper and pulp industry is doing here in this list? Because paper and pulp industry produces a lot of sludge. The more and more you wash the paper with acids and different chemicals, you produce a lot of sludge. And the sediments which come out of the paper and pulp industries are equivalent to the silt, which is normally used in geotechnical engineering construction or for different infrastructure activities. I have discussed a lot about the mining industry also, alright. Similarly, battery and fuel cell industry. So, I am sure nickel, cobalt, bismuth, cadmium, these are the heavy elements which are causing a big problem to the present day safeguarding of the geo-environment. As far as the gadgets are concerned, yes, these are required and they are fulfilling the requirements. Leather industry, I am sure you must have come across that the leather is also a big issue, particularly the type of leachates it produces and the contamination which it causes of the geo-environment. It's a big list, alright. Electroplating. So, the more and more electroplating you do, the spent fluid is the one from which you have taken out the metals. So, when you are doing electroplating, and then the question is where to throw it, where to dispose it. It becomes a liquor of certain anions or cations when you do electroplating. So, when you do electroplating, basically cations go on to the electrodes, your bangles and all, whatever you are trying to electroplate, that will become a cathode on which cations will go and get deposited. So, all anions remain in the solution and hence solution becomes a very concentrated anionic solution, chloride ion, let us say. So, most of the industries are facing this problem that after the processing has been done, the sludge which comes out of very high anionic concentration, what to do with it, and then they approach you to solve this problem. Are you realizing? So, the concentrations would be 40,000 ppm, 50,000 ppm, extremely high concentrations, and you are supposed to give a solution to these issues. It becomes interdisciplinary work now.
Leather industry, like in Kanpur, tanneries are there. So, is there any subsequent, like, significant improvement in their work right now after so many years, since they are near the Ganga river? That's why I'm only asking about the tanneries specifically.
Correct. So, you are quite knowledgeable, you are aware of what is the situation. There is a Central Leather Research Institute also in the country. Just go to the web page and see what they are doing. Where it is located? Check it and visit their website and see what type of innovative things they are doing into the leather industry, because leather brings lot of foreign revenues to a country, apart from the revenues which local market also provides. Textile industries, you must be aware of. There were so many judgments given by the courts on closure of the textile industry. Why? Jaipur is a good example where the quota print used to be, dye printing used to be the main issue, and it contaminates the groundwater extremely. So, there was a threat. The way the leather industry was banned, similarly dyeing industry was also banned. But for a environmental geotechnologist, this should not be a solution to a problem. Banning is not a solution. What should have been done? Solution should have been provided, correct, so that nothing untoward happens to the geo environment. Now, this is where the engineering is. You take a specific case and solve this problem and say this is the solution which I am giving to the society. Hospitals and pharmaceutical companies, I hope you can realize, is a big challenge how to deal with the hospital waste, bio waste. The cancerous cells which are removed in the hospitals, who knows where to dispose and how incinerate them, correct. So, these are the challenges. Pharmaceutical companies, the sludge which they are producing and which they are disposing. So, these are good examples of hazardous waste. You can add on to this list is never ending. Some of the examples of heavy metals I have written over here, and how do they influence and what form they are obtained in different gadgets, utility items I have listed over here. So, lead, mercury, arsenic, cadmium, tin, zinc, chromium, copper, beryllium, strontium, these are the heavy metals which are checked or which are tested in drinking water and the sludge which are being disposed of. And on the right hand side I have shown what are the potential utility items where you might be having this. So, somewhere you must have read few years back that the kids in India are not supposed to get exposed to the toys from a certain country. You came across these type of things? Very good. So, you are aware of what is happening. So, somebody must be forming these rules and regulations, is it not? Long back there was a case against a company which used to make shoes. So, imagine your bare foot is always in contact with the sole of the leather, and if these soles are made up of PVC, what is going to happen? As a scientist, how would you analyze this problem? It is a contact mechanics problem. So, you have a high chloride concentration in the PVC which is migrating into the blood vessels in your body. So, non-biodegradable synthetic organics, chlorinated hydrocarbons, and in what form they are available I have written over here. Lead is dioxins, mercury DDT, capone is arsenic, cadmium mirax, PCB boards which you have in your electronic gadgets, they have tin and it is leachable, zinc, carbon tetrachloride, benzene, chromium, and different type of polyvinyl chlorides which might be having beryllium and strontium. So, once you enter into this realm, you have to understand that complete diagnostics of the soils where these type of manufacturing activities are being taken up has to be done. If they are contaminated, you have to clean them up, and if there is a potential of contamination, you have to stop it, all right. And then this becomes a big issue for the nation and the society. Is the scope becoming clear that what are your activities? And this is where you have to use advanced instrumentation tools to detect what the facts are.